You know this flower. I mean, you absolutely know this flower. It's vibrant, it's cheerful, it is pretty much the star of every window box and garden all summer long. But what if I told you that for hundreds of years, pretty much all of us have been calling it by the wrong name? Yeah, let's get into it and unravel this crazy botanical mystery.
Right? You know this scene. Big, beautiful clusters of red or pink or white flowers just spilling out of the pot. It's the quintessential look of summer. We all call it a geranium, and we go to the store and buy it under that name every single year.
But here's the kicker. Is that plant we all know and love as a geranium actually a geranium? Well, if you want to get technical, and we do, the answer is a big, surprising nope. Not even close.
So how in the world did millions of gardeners get it so wrong for so long? Well, it's a classic case of mistaken identity. And to solve it, we need to hop in our time machine and see exactly how this whole confusion took root.
Okay, so the story starts way back in 1732. A botanist sees these new plants from South Africa and says, hey, these are different. They need their own name, Pelargonium. But then, just a couple decades later, the absolute giant of taxonomy, Carl Linnaeus, comes along. He's organizing like all the plants, and for simplicity's sake, he just lumps them all together under the name geranium. It wasn't until 1789 that another botanist officially separated them again, but by then, it was too late. The damage was done. Everyone was already calling them geraniums, and the name just stuck.
So, what was the big clue that those botanists saw? What makes them so different? It's not about the color or the leaves, it's the fundamental structure of the flower itself. It literally all comes down to symmetry.
And here is the telltale sign. The flower in your window box, the Pelargonium, has what's called bilateral symmetry. See how the two top petals are kind of different from the three bottom ones? You can only slice it one way to get a mirror image, kind of like a human face. A true geranium, on the other hand, has radial symmetry. All its petals are exactly the same, radiating out from the middle like slices of a pizza or the points of a star.
And that face-like symmetry has a fantastic scientific name, zygomorphic. That's your new favorite botany word. It is the single biggest clue that separates these two plants. So next time you're at the garden center, you can be the expert in the aisle. Just look for that zygomorphic flower. But you know, knowing the difference between these two plants, that's just scratching the surface. The real story here is the Pelargonium genus itself. It is an incredibly vast and diverse family, way beyond that one common flower we all know.
And I mean vast. We're not talking about a dozen or so species. There are about 280 distinct species of Pelargonium. The common garden variety we see everywhere? Yeah, that's just the tip of a very, very big iceberg.
For centuries, botanists tried to organize this huge group based on what they looked like. Which ones had similar leaves or flowers. But as we know, looks can be deceiving. Modern genetic analysis has completely redrawn the family tree, showing that there are really 4 major distinct genetic groups, which are called subgenera. Let's take a quick tour, because this is where it gets really cool. First up, the subgenus Magnapetala, which means large petals. And look at this example, P. tetragonum. It has these wild, almost square stems and these striking butterfly-like flowers. This looks nothing like the plant on your porch, right? Next up, we have Parviopatella, or small petals. This little guy is P. cotyledonus. It comes from the super harsh, rocky island of St. Helena. It has this thick, succulent-like stem to store water, which makes it look almost like a little bonsai tree with these simple, elegant white flowers.
Then there's Posse signata. This is P. acetosum, sometimes called the sorrel-leaved Pelargonium because its leaves have this tangy, acidic taste. And here you can really see that classic zygomorphic flower shape we talked about, with those delicate, separated petals.
And finally, we get to the biggest group of them all, the subgenus Pelargonium itself. And just look at this showstopper, P. tricolor. With those heart-shaped red patches on the petals, it honestly looks more like a pansy than what we think of as a geranium. These 4 groups just show how incredibly diverse this one family of plants really is.
Okay, so if these plants are so diverse and come in all these wild shapes and sizes, how did one specific type become this global sensation? Well, that story is a journey that spans continents and centuries. So the vast majority, we're talking 90% of all Pelargonium species, come from southern Africa. The very first one to make the trip to Europe was P. triste sometime before 1600, probably hitching a ride on a ship. By 1631, it was in England, and by the 1720s, the key species that would become the parents of our modern garden varieties had all arrived.
And this is it. This is where the whole story began.
This humble-looking plant, Pelargonium tristae, photographed right there in its native habitat, was the very first ambassador of its kind to the gardens of Europe.
So you take those first few species that made that long journey from Africa. You add hundreds of years of enthusiastic breeding, and what you get is the incredible rainbow of plants you see at your local garden center today.
And the plant at the center of it all is this one, the zonal Pelargonium. That's the official name for the classic geranium we all know and love. It's a hybrid, bred from a couple of those original South African species.
And why is it called zonal? Well, it's not just a random name. It's because of that distinct dark band or zone that you often see right in the middle of the leaf. That is a genetic trait passed down directly from one of its parents, a species called Pelargonium zonale.
And even within the zonals, breeders have gone wild. They're often classified by size. You've got your basic plants, the big ones you see in parks, then you have smaller dwarf varieties, and even these teeny, slow-growing miniatures that are just perfect for a windowsill or maybe a fairy garden. But the zonal is just one part of the whole shebang. Gardeners can also find those beautiful trailing ivy-leaved types for hanging baskets, the massive and super showy regals, these delicate little angel varieties, and of course, the scented leaved group, which are grown for leaves that can smell like rose or mint or even chocolate.
But this familiar plant has one more amazing secret up its sleeve. Get this, it has a built-in defense system. A study confirmed that the Japanese beetle, a major garden pest, becomes paralyzed almost instantly after eating the flower petals of zonal Pelargoniums. Turns out, a natural chemical in the petals just short-circuits their nervous system within minutes. Who knew?
It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the most common flower on our porches has a hidden identity and a secret weapon, what other secrets are hiding in plain sight right in your own garden?